Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica Ryan. I am the Education Officer here at Clough Eco Village, and I'm delighted to present to you today the story of Clough Eco Village and how we seek to build sustainable community. We're known as somewhere that you can visit, which focuses on place-based education for sustainable development, which means we get you out of the classrooms, we get you to come on down to the Eco Village to learn who we are and what we do and the impact of our work. We talk about our work focusing on building, caring, learning, and sharing. So as a group of individuals, we came together around 25 years ago. We were concerned, people concerned about the environment, involved in different environmental groups. And we chose to come together to see what changes we could make in our own lives and whether we could share the lessons that we learned with others on our journey. So we sought to build a sustainable community whilst caring for each other and for the planet, and learning as we went on the work that we do, and then sharing what we learned with others who were interested in our work. So that was our mission and our objectives. So our purpose was essentially to build a community that was resilient and supportive. So a community where we look out for each other, we're aware of each other, we're aware of each other's needs, each other's opinions, but where we also learn from each other and seek to give a space for everyone's voice to be heard. And we wanted to do that together in community, whilst we look at working in partnership with the living world. So caring for the land that we purchased in partnership with the other living species and creatures that we share our planet with. Our intention was to learn to live more socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable lives. So we talked about building sustainable community, and then we looked at the word sustainable and broke that down into different elements so that we could focus our energies and our learning on both our social needs, our economic needs, and the environmental needs of the land. And then throughout the time that we have worked together, we've always sought to share what we've learned with others. We have a huge number of people that come to want to learn, whether they are secondary school students like yourselves, or a lot of third-level universities. We get a lot of researchers that want to come and do research projects on our work. And of course, community groups seeking to make change in their own communities, and the other organizations that support those community groups. So we work with a lot of people to share what it is we've learned on our journey. So when we talk about modeling sustainable community, when we use the word modeling, we don't mean that we are like a model as an example, like a theme park, but we're actually modeling in the scientific terminology, which is essentially seeking to sample and try and test different ways of living sustainably. So we don't just have one method that we think is the way to live in sustainable community, but we are constantly trying and experimenting different methods and ways of living in a sustainable community. So we have our image here of our sustainable community tree, and the 5 aspects include ecological integrity, health and well-being, participation and engagement, culture and heritage, and economic resilience. So all of these elements, these themes will come up when we look at our community and when we look at making our community more sustainable. So as I go through this presentation, we will see different elements of these themes coming out. What I mentioned, we talk about environmental sustainability. So that's when we're looking at our energy usage and our waste, our emissions, what we do with our waste, how much waste we generate, where does the waste go, how do we dispose of it. We talk about social sustainability, and that is everything from working well as a community and listening to each other's voices, ensuring everybody is heard, to also ensuring that everyone is cared for and included and has access to the same benefits within our community. And then externally, we seek to be good global citizens through our approach to social sustainability. Economic sustainability is all about where the money that we generate within our community goes, and as much as possible, we seek to ensure a circular economy where any income that's received within the community stays and remains within the community. And cultural sustainability, which is really about multiculturalism and biodiversity in the sense of engaging with all living creatures and living entities within the planet that we share our lives with. So these are the different elements of sustainability that we look to both model, but also to learn about and to share with others. So if you were looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, which no doubt you have done many times, and you're looking to see where our work fits in, you know, the most obvious goal would be goal number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And we identify very much with that goal. But then if we look at many of the other goals, a lot of the work that we do overlaps with many other goals as well. So everything from good health and well-being to affordable and clean energy, to responsible consumption and production, and of course climate action and others. So, but for the purposes of your work, we can look at the SDG number 11 as being the one that we focus our work on most. So when we started, I mentioned that we were a group of environmentalists. We were all living in Dublin, and we were very interested in making change in our own lives. And first of all, we just gathered and had meetings together to discuss what it is we wanted to do. And over time, we realized that actually building Ireland's first eco-village was the project that we wanted to undertake. There was no other eco-village in Ireland at the time. And this was the way that we felt that we could make most impact in our desire to make change and bring about change whilst addressing the environmental crisis. So when we came to Clough, Jordan, we traveled around Ireland looking for the perfect site to buy to build our eco-village. And what we ended up in Clough, Jordan, because we're in the center of Tipperary, which has very good quality fertile land. And what was interesting about the land that was for sale, and you can see here in the slide, it's a 67-acre site, and it was originally a dairy farm, so that the land was very, very high quality soil, which was important for us in terms of growing our own food. But also the dairy farm was actually directly attached to the existing village of Clough, Jordan. And that meant that a lot of the facilities and resources of the the village were there already, so we didn't have to set, we could basically join this existing village, which at the time was experiencing significant rural depopulation. A lot of the young people had left the village of Clough, and when we came along, the locals and the people that had lived there for generations, when they heard about what we wanted to do, they were extremely welcoming and happy with our plans, which was certainly a testament to the people of Clough and the people within our community on good communications and explaining what it is they wanted to do, because the people of Clough were very willing to welcome us to join them in their village to build the eco-village. So we are now a living community and an educational project. We have 120 residents, 55 green homes, and over 10 small businesses within the eco-village. We are a citizen-led development. I mentioned earlier about social sustainability. So we are people-led, which means that we work on cooperative principles. We make sure that when we make decisions in the eco-village, about the eco-village, the work that we're going to do, we do so cooperatively. So if there are disagreements, we seek to understand where different people's perspectives and try to find solutions and ways forward that meet everybody's needs. Now, that of course slows things down because we can't make quick and fast decisions, but it also ensures that our community moves forward together and moves forward with shared decisions. So it makes for a community that's built on very strong foundations. So as you'll see from the image there, we actually divided the area into 4 kind of designated zones. So when we bought the site originally, it was a greenfield site. So we decided to have one zone, which was for our clustered housing, which we built as close to the main street, to the existing houses of Clough as possible. Then we have one whole area designated for our woodland, so where we're sharing our land with biodiversity. We have a community farm in the back, at the back part of the site. And then we have an enterprise and energy area, which I'll go into in a minute. There's lots going on there. So that'll give you a sense of the overall site. And now I'll kind of take further steps in to explain what happens in each of these areas. So our journey, once we had just bought the site, was about really making sure we made the right decisions, because we wanted about 130 sites. We could have just divided the land up and given everybody each a site and said, go off and live sustainably. But what we wanted to do was really make sure that the project was built on strong foundations. We were focusing on developing our skills and learning through experience and expertise. So we needed to set out principles around which we would safeguard the integrity of the work that we were going to do. So what we did was we wrote what's called an ecological charter. And in the charter, we had an agreed set of sustainability standards around which all people, anybody who was going to join as a member and buy a site would join the project, and they would sign up to live within the standards of the charter. So within the charter, we focused on green building. We looked at energy generation and our sustainable urban drainage system. We look at land care, and we look at economic sustainability and transformation. So these were the areas that we felt that we needed to focus our energy and where we most needed to learn how to make change to improve the way that we were going to live sustainably on our land. So starting with the green homes, as I said, in our eco charter, we had an agreed set of standards. So a lot of these, all of the houses that were built in the eco village were built before the government brought in BER ratings, the building energy ratings. So nowadays, when you build a new house, there's much stricter regulations around building, which is great. Now, the houses that were built in the eco village were all built prior to the BER ratings, and some of them are very experimental, but ultimately they're all high performance housing, focusing on having low embodied carbon so that the materials that we actually use to build the houses have low embodied carbon, but they're also low energy and built using ecological materials. So we have houses built of cob. You see the round house on the left is built of cob, which would be a traditional Irish building material made from mud, straw, and sand. We have timber frame houses. The one on the right is actually a kit house. And but then we've also very high spec houses that are passive houses, and then houses that were built cooperatively. So lots of different types of experimental pioneering green building. It was at one point that was at the highest percentage of kind of high rating and green homes in the country. Now, as I say, green building has caught up, and which is great. And we still have a series of sites that we will build on. And when we do, the new houses will probably be quite different from the houses that are here originally. But it was amazing to see so much experimentation and kind of a pioneering attitude during the time when we were building the green homes. Before we did anything with the site, we put in an underground infrastructure, which included a sustainable urban drainage system. So there's a stream that runs through the eco-village, and the course of the stream was changed to make the most use of it as an amenity, but also to essentially to increase interaction with biodiversity. So it's a very high energy location for biodiversity where the stream is, because nobody can walk there or there's no cars. So it's a boundary between the water and the land, which is dedicated to biodiversity. But it's designed specifically to prevent pollution and flooding, because if there's a lot of rainfall, the water is held in place in a series of swales and throughout the site, connected to the stream, so that the water collects in these swales and in the stream, and then seeps slowly back into the ground and into the stream, which joins the Ballyfinboy River and onto the Shannon. And that prevents flooding and prevents because flood water will often contain pollution and contaminate streams and rivers. So this is a way of both preventing flooding and also pollution. So it's worked very well as a system. So we call it the subsystem. We also have our district heating system. So this is a big, large barn, which has two wood chip boilers in it. You can see in the photo there on the right, that is the wood chip within the boilers, and it's fed into the boilers, where essentially it heats all of the hot water and heating for all of the buildings and all of the homes and all of the businesses in the eco-village. There's a series of underground pipes that run throughout the eco-village, and all of the hot water is actually heated from the barn. We use waste wood from a local sawmill about an hour away in Galway, and essentially this provides 100% renewable energy. So it's a very affordable and a very resilient, but also dependable source of energy, and the way we heat all of our homes. We do also have solar panels on many of the houses as well. So that was do you remember I talked about those four main areas? That was the residential area and the energy. Now, land care, woodlands and biodiversity is an extremely important area that we focus on in the eco-village. The photo there on the right is actually from our allotments. But in the designated woodland area, we planted 17,000 native trees, over 15 acres. with oak and ash and birch, and we had a problem with the ash. There was ash dieback, which was a disease, but because we had to remove the ash, but because we had so many other mixture of native trees, they grew up around the gaps, and we planted small oaks. So that was a good example of having a diversity amongst our planting, that if a disease was going to affect some of the trees, it didn't affect all of them. We have 1,000 trees that we grafted from native Irish apple trees from seed savers, about 70 varieties, many different kinds of apples that grow very, very well on site. And we use, it's a permaculture design principle, this idea of having an edible landscape. So the apples are planted throughout the residential area, and we also have fruit bushes like blackcurrants and raspberries and different herbs, and then many other fruit trees as well. And also within the residential area, we have 7 acres of share gardens and what we describe as wildlife corridors. So where we connect, do you remember I mentioned the high density area around the stream? We have wildlife corridors that connect the gardens with the stream, with the woodland. So the wildlife and birds and insects and animals can move around the site without being interrupted. We talk about the car being the visitor here in the eco-village. So we have designed the roads that are the narrowest possible roads to that you can actually get away with in planning in Ireland, and they're designed in that way so that we can favour pedestrians, favour cyclists, and the cars need to move slowly around the site. And we designed such a way that the car parking places are all set aside from the homes, so they're clustered together, and people walk down pathways to get to their homes and then interact more effectively with their neighbours. And at the back of the site, I mentioned there was a farm. So we have what we call Clough Community Farm, which is a CSA, which is also known as Community Supported Agriculture, which means we're all members of the farm. So we all pay a subscription membership fee once a month to support the farmer, to ensure that the farmer makes a living, but also if there's bad weather or some crops fail, that regardless, the farm is supported. It's an agroecological farm on 8 acres. So its focus is not just growing healthy organic vegetables, but also focusing on the health of the soil itself. So we look to produce, as we say, high quality vegetables coming from nutritional soil, very, very well cared for soil. So the vegetables are high quality, but also if the soil is cared for well, then the biodiversity in the area, it remains healthy, and it's overall more beneficial for the biodiversity in the area and reduces our overall impact, environmental impact when we're growing our food. So the vegetables that we produce, we harvest twice a week, and the fresh produce is available for more than 80 families that live in the Clough area. So we're very proud of the farm, and it's a great way to eat seasonal vegetables and also very much expand the way and become more inventive in the way that you cook, because there's all sorts of vegetables that we wouldn't necessarily buy in the supermarket, and there's also lots of vegetables that you would buy in supermarkets that you don't have. So you need to be more experimental and inventive with your cooking. So that's all of those areas I was describing came from the map that I laid out for you. But there's many other different elements of the community that have developed and have grown since we started to build our houses when we moved here. So we have, this is where we kind of do, it's a way of explaining how our knowledge and our skills became, we started to go deeper into learning about the different things that we were doing, and we started to become innovators in different areas. So we have We have red gardens, which are the research, education, and development gardens up in the allotments. That we have a gardener there who runs a YouTube channel. He has a very successful YouTube channel and shares his learnings on how to grow vegetables on small scale plots. And he has followers all over the world. We have a bread club, so it's a bakery called Riot Rye Bread Club and Bake School, which it's a bakery school, but it's also a bakery, and we're all members of the bread club. So we support the baker, and we collect our bread once a week, which is baked on site using renewable. It's actually a wood burning stove, so he's using waste wood from the site and from the local area. We have a fabrication laboratory, which is a way of being able to make things and fix things using digital machinery. We do things like car sharing, which would be not very typical, but we'll have one car and a few people sharing the car, sharing the insurance, sharing the maintenance, and so that's less impact from an energy perspective. We have a wonderful amphitheater where we have mostly during the summer months, we have concerts and gigs. And we have things like a seed bank. We have a beautiful labyrinth on site. So a lot of these projects are basically people who've come here who have passions themselves and have gone out on the land and started to focus on the areas that have most meaning to them. And then because we're a supportive community, we are supporting our neighbors and friends in developing their projects and their passions as well. So in 2018, I mentioned we get a lot of researchers who come to learn about our project, and two researchers came along and said they wanted to measure our ecological footprint after we had built the eco-village. So they invited us all to fill out a questionnaire, a very detailed questionnaire that focused on everything from energy, waste, food, water, travel. And they also got 79 other settlements in Ireland to complete the same questionnaire. And when the results came back in, it was very interesting. At the time, if the global population was living within the capacity of the planet to sustain itself, everybody had about 1.87 global hectares available to live their life if they were going to, or to sustain their lifestyle if they were going to live within the capacity of the planet. And our results came in at 2.03 global hectares. So we didn't quite make it. We weren't living within our lifestyle, and the energy that we needed to support our lifestyle was still using a little bit more of the earth that was available to us. But what was most interesting was that the average ecological footprint of other Irish settlements came in at 4.35 global hectares. So in other words, you would need more than 2 planets to sustain the lifestyle of the average Irish person. I'm not talking millionaire lifestyles and private jets or anything like that. Just the average Irish person was living way beyond the capacity of the planet to sustain their lifestyle. In fact, we would have needed 2 planets. So whilst we didn't come in within the capacity of the planet, we were quite close comparatively. And we seek to continue to reduce our ecological footprint going forward. So in terms of our plans for the future, we've just recently received funding to build the first of its kind biodiversity-friendly street lighting, which is special street lighting, which is designed to both save energy because it only shines light downwards. So you know if you're traveling towards a city or a town, you'll see an orange glow above the city at night. And there's a lot of energy wasted shining street light up into the sky. We're also protecting our night skies. We have wonderful night skies here because at the moment we have no street lighting. So we're protecting our night skies by shining our new lighting down, but it also is designed with a low lumen, which means that it's designed to not interrupt the nighttime activities of nighttime creatures. So we're very excited about that, and we're hoping to work with the village of Clough to change their street lighting as well. We do a lot of fostering networking. We have a very successful annual gathering, which is run by the farm, called Feeding Ourselves, where people come together to talk about new approaches to societal transformation. We've just finished a project on working with other groups across Ireland to strengthen our work and our resilience. And as I mentioned, we work with a lot of researchers, and we're now working with the Global Ecovillage Network to support researchers in doing more, to sharing and doing more investigations on the work that we do here. So lots more to be done. But bringing this back to you guys and to your work, one of the most important things that I want to kind of communicate to you is this idea of a tipping point, that what we're doing is essentially looking to try and change societal norms. And the research goes that if 25% of society believes that there needs to be change, then change will happen. So we are looking to work with others to join us to reach this 25%, so that change then will happen at governmental level, at policy level. When people vote, they will look to make the kind of changes that we need to ensure that we start to live more sustainably on our planet. So I think that's a really important aspect for you to understand, that you need to make change, you will join with others. And the more people that join together to seek change, the more likely that change will happen. So that's where your part comes in. That's where each one of us plays a part in making change together. So to be, as I said at the very beginning, looking at that 25%, how can you make change? You know, we can look at it from change through our cultural heritage, change through participation and engagement, change through our choices when it comes to ecology and the environment, change when it comes to our economic decisions, and change in our health and well-being. So there's many different ways that we can look at making change in our own lives. And it's up to you to understand what's possible and see how you can bring about learning and teaching others around you. So I have some examples here that other school communities have taken on in terms of taking action, everything from pollinator-friendly zones or wildlife ponds in their gardens, to organizing repair cafes and clothes swaps, to doing more obvious ones like carpooling, walking and cycling. So there's many different ways that we already know about that we can bring into both ourselves and the way that we make choices, but also the choices that are made in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities as well. I'm ending with this because we're just about to have our celebration for the year. In a couple of weeks' time, we're having Féile na nGiúil, which is our community apple festival, and it's a time for celebrating as a community. It's our harvest festival. We have a huge amount of apples. Do you remember I told you about our apple orchards? So we're going to be doing apple pressing, making apple juice, having apple bake competitions, and coming together. So, you know, this isn't all about hard graft. This is also about recognizing, you know, the efforts that we're making, celebrating them together. And the reality is that if you make choices and you work on projects, and you're always building, and you look back on the work that you've done, and you realize that each part of the work that you do will build, and will build with other people who are also looking to make change in their communities too. So I'm going to end there with a picture of our labyrinth. That is our 7th Circuit labyrinth, and the text at the top says, "Walk the talk." So it's, I invite you all to consider what's possible in your schools, in your lives, in your communities, to see how you can bring about the change that we need to live more sustainably on our planet. So thank you all for listening. and best of luck in the future. Take care.